Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to talk to you today about milk fat production in dairy goats. My name is Dr. Gail Carpenter, and I'm the State Dairy Extension Specialist with Iowa State University. So a few things that lead into milk production are glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, and minerals. So these would be some of the building blocks for our milk components. Glucose is a building block for lactose. Amino acids are building blocks for protein. Fatty acids are building blocks for fatty acids or milk fat. And then minerals, of course, are going to be the minerals that are secreted in milk, like calcium. In the ruminant animals, acetate and beta-hydroxybutyrate are both produced by the microbes in the rumen, and those are fatty acid precursors. So when a ruminant, like a goat, is making milk fat, they use acetate and butyrate as the building blocks for milk fat production. Milk components will vary quite a bit by species, and I have a few examples here of different species of mammals that make milk. All mammals make milk, but here's some different examples here of milk components in different mammals. You can see there's quite a bit of variation in milk fat, the different types of milk protein, as well as lactose and ash is just the mineral content of milk production. Milk fat, you can see in the cow, averaging around 4%. In the goat, in the sheep, it's going to average a bit higher. The goat, we're looking at 4.5%, and that varies quite a bit within a species as well, all the way up to the blue whale, which has a 39% milk fat. And if you look at casein and whey, those are two different types of milk protein. We'll talk more about those components in the milk protein presentation, but you can see those vary quite a bit as well. Now, where does milk fat come from? I told you it's released from the mammary epithelial cell as a globule, but where does it actually start before it's released into that alveolus? Milk fatty acids are produced from dietary fatty acids as well as de novo fatty acids. De novo fatty acids means like of new or from new. So de novo synthesis of fatty acids is when the cow is making her fatty acids herself. Dietary fatty acids, of course, are going to be the fatty acids that come from the cow's diet. Some of those might actually be stored in body tissue beforehand. So if a goat has high body condition score and then loses weight and she milks off that fat in early lactation, those are still going to be considered dietary fatty acids that are released in her milk. Now, everything over a carbon 14 or a 14 carbon length chain is going to be from the diet. So our longer carbon chains are going to be mostly dietary fatty acids. Our shorter chain fatty acids, so C16, anything lower than that, those are going to be de novo or produced by the mammary cell, by the goat herself from those precursors that we talked about earlier, acetate and butyrate. Now, why do I care about de novo fatty acid production? De novo fatty acids are actually going to be a pretty big driver of total milk fat. So if you take a look at these two graphs I have up here on your screen right now, the graph on the left shows the correlation between de novo fatty acids and total milk fat production. And you can see there's a very strong correlation between de novo fatty acids and milk fat. If you take a look at the graph on the right side, those are going to be preformed, which is another word for dietary fatty acid. Those dietary fatty acids are much less highly correlated to total milk fat production. You can see there is still a positive correlation, so as we get more dietary fatty acids, more milk fat is produced, but it's not nearly as strong of a correlation as we see with de novo fats. So if we can improve our de novo fatty acid production, we can improve our total milk fat production. So I just said that again here on this next slide. There is a very strong correlation of those de novo fats to milk fat. How do we get more of these de novo fatty acids? Now, basically, long story short, the way we improve our de novo fatty acids is by getting good rumen fermentation and increasing our VFA production. Remember, the main building blocks for those fatty acids in the mammary gland are going to be acetate and butyrate. Acetate and butyrate are produced by rumen microbes when they ferment her diet. So if we can increase acetate and butyrate by making a healthy rumen with high-functioning microbes, that's going to increase the amount of fatty acids that goat can produce. A couple ways that research has shown us that we can improve rumen health is by decreasing stocking density. So making sure that we have enough room for our goats to be able to access feed at all times, for them to be able to lie down comfortably, and for them to be able to live their normal lives without worrying about bumping into their peers too much. Another way that we can improve overall rumen health is by optimizing feed intake and making sure that goats have a lot of good quality forages. There's also a really strong relationship between these de novo fatty acids and milk protein. So when we're talking in the next presentation about producing milk protein, anything we can do to increase our de novo fatty acids is also going to have a strong impact on milk protein production. Now, forages are going to play a pretty strong role in improving overall milk fat. Forages are going to be the base of a high quality diet for dairy goats, so we want to make sure that we have high quality forages. Forages in the diet are going to provide energy, they'll provide protein, they'll promote rumen health and rumen fill. So they're going to make sure that that goat is functioning at optimum rumen capacity. Baleage is a great source of forages for a lot of goat dairies. Baleage is basically going to be a silage that's wrapped up in plastic. So it's going to be halfway between hay and silage. It's a great option for a lot of farms that are looking for more flexibility in terms of harvest timing. It can be prone to mold if you don't do it right. If you let oxygen get into the baleage, it can cause more problems in the long run. So we want to be sure that we're still maintaining good quality forages and that we're still storing these forages correctly when we're making baleage. But baleage can be a great option, especially for small producers. Once a bale is open, it must be fed up quickly to prevent spoilage as well as mold growth. Those are going to have the opposite effect on rumen function. If we increase spoilage as well as mold, that's going to have a negative effect on rumen health, and that's going to negate any of the benefits we see from feeding some of these forages. We recommend feeding it in winter, unless you can feed it fast enough in summer before it molds. In the wintertime, or in the cold weather, I should say, it's going to be less prone to molding. However, in the summertime, because of the hot weather, and in the Midwest, we have a lot of humidity as well, so it can have some negative impacts on mold production in that baleage.